Welcome back, everyone, to Biblio Files, a show from the Ann Arbor District Library in Michigan that's all about books. Each episode, we answer one book-related question, and this time we're reading books by Indigenous authors. I'm Christopher, and I'm joined as always by Amanda and Lucy. Lucy, what did you pick for us today?
So I picked a book that came out last year called The Removed by Brandon Hobson. And Brandon Hobson is an enrolled citizen of the Cherokee Nation of Oklahoma. He also has a PhD. He's a PhD in English, but then he has years of experience as a social worker for disadvantaged youth before that. And you see some of this come up in the book, The Removed. So The Removed focuses on two different strands. The first is the Achota family, and they are Cherokee living in Oklahoma. And they're trying to reclaim the memory of their teenage son, Ray Ray, who was shot by the police when he was 15 years old. This is 15 years ago. And every year they have a bonfire to celebrate him and to remember him. But this bonfire also comes on the annual celebration of the signing of the Cherokee Nation Constitution. And so the family is doing this to celebrate Ray Ray, but they're also kind of still unpacking the trauma around him. So the family is made up of his parents. His father, Ernest, is suffering from Alzheimer's or beginning to. And Ray Ray had two siblings, a brother named Edgar and a sister named Sonia. And they both have gone off on kind of strange journeys. Edgar is actually a meth addict living far away from home. And Sonia just keeps putting herself in these dangerous relationships. And that's kind of how they're handling their trauma. Edgar's not going to come home this year because he just can't deal with his family. So that's this one part. And the parents have taken on this foster kid, Wyatt, who they kind of feel like is the reincarnation of Ray Ray living with them. Then woven into this story is also the story of the Trail of Tears. And there are some of the chapters are narrated from the point of view of their long lost ancestor who died on the Trail of Tears. So you have these two interwoven stories that are kind of pulling together one family's memories of loss and inherited trauma. And you learn a lot about, the Cherokee traditions and the culture, and you see how it sort of blends in with their modern life. The book is really interesting because it's narrated from points of view of multiple people. So you have the first chapter is narrated by Ray Ray, the boy who dies. Then the brother narrates some chapters where he goes into kind of this fugue state. You can't tell if it's a hallucination or really happening to him. The mother has some chapters. The father, who's trying not to forget everything with Alzheimer's, has some chapters. And then the long lost ancestor also has some chapters. So there's a lot going on. It's not a huge book, but it's just really filled with great writing and just really impactful. And the story sticks with you. And I love the way that he sort of encompassed all of their stories, all these collected stories, to sort of tell this combined story of trauma and heritage and family and connectivity. So that is The Removed by Brandon Hobson. Amanda, what did you pick?
Well, I love the premise of that book. I want to put it on my list now. Thanks, Lucy.
Mm-hmm.
The book I chose is a teen fiction book called The Firekeeper's Daughter, written by Angeline Bully. It was published in spring of 2021, last year, and it was instant bestseller. People just gobbled it up. The book the author is from Michigan, and the book is set in Michigan in the Upper Peninsula in the Sault Ste. Marie area, Sugar Island, and then on the Ojibwe Reservation. The narrator is an 18-year-old girl named Donis, and Donis is a biracial, unenrolled tribal member. Her father is Ojibwe, and he was a very good hockey player, and then her mother is white from a very well-to-do family. So you've got these blending of these two different cultures within Donis. She's had a lot of tragedy in her life and in her family. Her father died when she was young, but she relies heavily on the community and the family and the members that are there and surrounding her. She also is a very good hockey player. She loves having that skill and that connection with her father in that way. Her brother is also a great player. She was supposed to go to U of M to play hockey, and something happens. She decides to stay back, and she ends up helping her grieving mother and then her ill grandmother. So you've got this strong family ties, and Donis is committed to helping those people in her community and her family. But there's also a murder. There's a murder, and it's drug related, and Donis goes undercover to help the FBI solve the mystery. She has these connections, insider knowledge of Sugar Island and things that are happening in her community where they feel like she could be an asset. I won't go into all of the other details of that, but it just ends up being this like thriller, this page turner where you want to, I mean, the book is like 400 or 500 pages, but it's so good. The writing is amazing, and you want to know who done it. You want to figure out the mystery. Meanwhile, there's this gorgeous new hockey player on her brother's team. And so she's got a bit of a love interest there. It's just a really, really good book. I love the story of Donis. She's a very strong female, and I love that she relies on her aunt and her grandma and her best friend and her best friend's granny. And there's just this strong family tie of these women supporting each other. And I really, really like that about the book, as well as just Donis and her story. Plus, I liked reading about hockey. So you've got suspense, you've got family, you've got drama, community. Plus, it's Michigan in the UP, and they mentioned Ann Arbor a few times. So I loved all of that. I just love that. And that's where the author is from. So she's writing like pieces of like things she knows. I think she's an enrolled member in the Chippewa tribe. So it's just delightful. And I just love that this was her first novel. And it's just, I was blown away. The book, it sat on my shelf for so long before I read it. And I finally read it, and I was just like mad at myself for not reading it sooner. So that is The Firekeeper's Daughter by Angeline Boley. And I know, Lucy, you've read this, right?
I have, and it was like hands down one of my favorite books that I read last year. And I would recommend it to anybody because, like you were just saying, Amanda, I think there's so many different pieces of it. And so like it has this thriller aspect that makes it hard to put down, but it also has this family and character driven kind of story. So yeah, I loved that book. I just loved it.
And similar with the book you mentioned, there's a lot of information on Native American practices and tradition that I'm not familiar with. So I liked reading those parts. And when she's speaking to people, she is kind of explaining how her community works and how her tribe works. But also it's not preachy, but it's a way to give you information as a casual reader like me who might not know the practices that she's speaking of or why they do X. So I really love that. So that's another reason, Lucy, with the book you mentioned, I like that time.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, I'm so excited you loved it too. Christopher, what did you bring to talk about today?
Well, I have a different book than either of you have picked. I chose to read Trail of Lightning by Rebecca Roanhorse. And Rebecca Roanhorse is a very prolific author. She's written so many books. She writes for Marvel Comics. She's written Star Wars books. And she had LeVar Burton read one of her short stories, it's called Welcome to Your Authentic Indian Experience. And she was very happy with LeVar Burton's reading of her story, and you can check that out online as well. But Trail of Lightning is a great story. It's very action-packed. It's set in a kind of dystopian future in the US where Navajo gods have come to life. And this is after a great flood. It has a little bit of a feel of both Buffy and Mad Max. So it's very action-packed. Maggie is embroiled in this kind of god war, essentially, and Coyote is there, who is this seemingly lovable trickster who turns out to be much more diabolical than anyone imagined. So I love the telling of that character. It's full of some great Navajo gods and stories, and it was really a lot of fun and a quick read. It's the first book in the series, so I hope there is actually a second one out, and I think there's a third one that will be written at some point. as I was reading it, I kept thinking this would be a great screen adaptation. So I look forward to hopefully seeing that on the screen someday. And I think that's about it. Does anyone have any other comments for our episode today? Okay, well, we will be back next time with another episode, and we would love to hear what you're reading. You can leave a comment in the section below, and until next time, take care.